Hey there, it's Sam with a Friday video for you, and today I want to talk about anti-heroes. Anti-heroes, we all love them. That's not necessarily true, since we love them, we hate them, maybe both at the same time. What is an anti-hero? What makes a character an anti-hero? How do you handle those characters well in your writing? I'm going to tackle all those questions today. Another important question maybe, why have anti-heroes become so appealing to us in our culture? That might be a bigger question than I have time for in one day or in one quick video, but I'll try to get there. I'm doing this is what I call a trope talk. I've done one of these one or two times before, where I'm just going to talk about a common trope in fiction and kind of analyze how it works, and some of my favorite examples, and take it from there. And of course, many of you know I'm a comic book guy. I'm a superhero guy. I'm writing a superhero novel, so a lot of my examples will be from superheroes or maybe like Star Wars and stuff a few times. But anyway, here we go. Anti-heroes. Excuse me. Okay, we've all heard of them. We know they're not quite a hero, not quite a villain. Water went another one way. I was trying to go too fast. Not quite a hero, not quite a villain. Somewhere in between. The question is why? What makes someone an anti-hero? And why are certain characters classified like that? And in my estimation, there's two things primarily, two different kinds of things that can make a character an anti-hero. Probably more than one. And then I mean, there's probably more than two. Probably more than two different kinds that we can think of. And I'm gonna put my anti-heroes broadly into two different categories, and I call them an anti-hero of method and an anti-hero of motive. Let me explain what I mean. Um, if we're thinking in terms of heroes and villains, which I know in the comic book world it's easy to do, obviously the hero has some good intention, the villain has some bad intention, but they both have like a plan, they both have a goal or a driving force, like a mission, if you will. And an anti-hero, so what I call an anti-hero of method is one who also has that driving goal, that like desire to do good, desire to help people, but their methods go too far. Classic example is the Punisher. He wants to fight crime. He wants to get justice and punish bad guys. All that's good in theory, but he kills the bad guys, which is morally ambiguous. That makes him an anti-hero. He uses extreme violence and kills them, because that's what he does. Even Batman, depending on if you consider him a hero or an anti-hero, some versions he becomes more brutal and such, and so I mean he still has his quest to just fight all criminals, but he becomes brutal or ambiguous morally in doing that. Wolverine, someone like him, those are all good examples. So my definition of that, of an anti-hero of method, is one who he has solid motives. He at least still has a drive or a mission to complete, this quest and fight bad guys or whatever it is. But he's willing to go to extremes, often immoral or at least morally ambiguous extremes that say Superman or Captain America wouldn't. That's one kind of anti-hero. I guess you'd call them chaotic good. The chaotic, if you're familiar with that kind of terminology, the chaotic good character is one kind of anti-hero. The other kind, I call it anti-hero of motive, and I'd say that's more like chaotic neutral, if you're familiar with that terminology. I'd say that's an anti-hero who does not necessarily have that driving quest. The heroes want to fight the bad guys. The bad guys are always trying to do something. The anti-hero of motive does not. Well, I call them that. It's a little ironic because they don't actually have a strong motive. At least in my estimation, like they're not. They're not really on a quest to right wrongs or fight anyone. They might be on a personal quest. I don't know, to of self fulfillment, or just kind of getting by. Like I consider some characters like that, like Deadpool, for example, who's a mercenary. He's not really trying to fight bad guys. I mean, they've kind of rewritten him so he usually fights bad guys. He doesn't kill just anyone. They want to make him somewhat sympathetic, but he's not on this noble quest to right wrongs and bring justice. He's mostly kind of in it for himself. Harley Quinn, depending on how she's usually portrayed these days. I would say Loki also. I mean, he's sometimes a villain, but in the last, but he's turning into an anti-hero. And, in the Marvel show that aired last year, I'd say Loki was an anti-hero of motive. I mean, he wasn't doing evil in that show. I mean, he wasn't a villain. I wouldn't quite call him a hero either. I mean, I guess there's a broad sense in which all protagonists are heroes, but in the sense of like righting wrongs, doing justice, helping others, he wasn't really a hero. I mean, what he was doing, like, his goal was mostly to find out like information about his own life, and I guess I mean he had just been rescued from death, and he was trying to find answers about the TVA and how that all worked, and how he fits into that. And so, I mean, it wasn't evil, but it wasn't necessarily heroic. It was just like he's on some personal quest for himself. I would consider him an anti-hero of motive there. And I'd also say, going to Star Wars, Han Solo, when we first meet him, I mean, obviously he experiences some character growth over time, and I'd say in his own time he becomes a hero. But when we first meet him in A New Hope, and he's this smuggler who's only in it for himself. He's not a bad guy, obviously. I mean, not a villain, but he's also not a hero. He's not trying to help anybody else, really, unless it profits him. He's just trying to get by and do his own thing. He has his own mission. Again, some people will call that chaotic neutral. So I consider that the second kind of anti-hero. I'd also even say, depending on which version you look at, Guardians of the Galaxy. I know they've given them heroic quests in the movies, but Peter Quill maybe is like a B-list Han Solo, or a poor man's Han Solo, or maybe he thinks he's Han Solo. I don't know. But he's not. He doesn't start out trying to save the galaxy. I mean, he kind of gets roped into it reluctantly. So do they all. I mean, this ragtag band of criminals, and I guess like Drax and Gamora are both against Thanos. They both have a semi-heroic quest, if you want to count that. But I feel like Peter and Rocket maybe are just like like the Han and Chewie of the group in some ways. They're the ones who just kind of float through the galaxy looking for the next quest. They're not trying to do anything good. They're not trying to do anything evil. They're just kind of in it for themselves. So that's what I consider an anti-hero of motive in my classification. There's the ones who are there's anti-heroes who have a clear driving quest, but they go too far in it, like the Punisher, and that's what makes them an anti-hero. And there's anti-heroes who don't necessarily have a clear driving quest, like Deadpool, for example. So those are broadly the two categories I would put anti-heroes in. And in my opinion, so I know some people disagree, so I'm about to give you. So what follows next is my opinion, not hard and fast writing principles or anything, but my opinion. I find the first kind a lot more interesting than the second kind, a lot more compelling as characters. Now, again, I'm a superhero guy. That's my thing. So like, just characters who have this heroic quest of fighting bad guys, I am drawn to them for whatever reason. Again, if we have more time, I could psychoanalyze that. But like, for example, the Punisher, even though he's not a good guy, like if he was a real person, I wouldn't condone his actions. But in fiction, I'm like, he's really interesting and kind of cool because he does whatever it takes to fight the bad guys, and I think it's interesting. Like he has a strong quest. We this strong, compelling desire that he won't back down from, and that he's relentless at. In fiction, we usually talk about a character needs a strong motive or a strong desire or or whatever you want to call it, but desire plus conflict equals story, kind of like that. So the Punisher or Batman or Wolverine, for example, they have these strong, compelling quests where they're on a mission for justice, and they're seeking justice. In some cases, maybe seeking revenge. Obviously, they blur the line a little bit in the anti-hero territory, but they're the ones. But yeah, they're on these quests, and even if they go too far, even if they're like kind of out of the main, I don't know, out of bounds or doing things that the heroes wouldn't approve of. They're still mostly fighting the bad guys and mostly doing good things ish, or at least having some good effects in the world. Anyway, we can get into that, philosophically and such, whether their actions are good or not. But anti-heroes of motive, or again, the ones who I say don't have a strong compelling motive. To me, they're not as interesting. I mean, I've okay, again, unpopular opinion. Um, but I'm a superhero comic book guy. But like some of those characters I mentioned earlier, like Deadpool, Harley Quinn, Loki, Guardians of the Galaxy, I know they're very popular with a lot of people. They're not my top favorite kinds of characters. I've read their stories because they're all connected, and you read some of them, and it just I've read them, and they're amusing, entertaining sometimes, but they're not my favorites, for similar reasons. I could go into this more deeply if we have more time, but what I'll say today is they don't really have a strong, compelling desire. Like they're not trying to be noble. I guess a noble quest isn't the only quest you can go on, although a hero usually has a quest that's noble in some way. But and of course, if you had a quest that wasn't noble, you'd be a villain, maybe. But these characters, they don't really seem to have an overarching like goal in from what I can tell. They're just kind of in it for themselves, and just taking the next adventure wherever it brings them. Deadpool and Harley Quinn comics seem like that. Again, Loki, I kind of explained. He's and Guardians of the Galaxy. They kind of just go on their own personal quests or get reluctantly roped into being a hero, but it's not really their thing. And I just, it's just me. It's my opinion. You can disagree, and I know people do just disagree with me, and that's fine. But just, I don't find those characters very interesting as like my top favorite characters. I'm sure if we analyze them, someone else, some fan out there would make an argument against me, like, well, actually, Deadpool has this strong desire, and I'm like, it depends. First of all, it depends on the writer. Different characters have had different desires at different times when they're written by different writers over many years and many different media. But in general, it seems like to me these characters are just kind of drifting. They're not really trying to accomplish anything big in their stories. They're just kind of like taking one thing at a time, and which maybe is how a lot of us go in life. But I just personally, I find the former kind of anti-hero to be more compelling, because that's just me, and I find the latter kind to be less compelling, less interesting, because again, they say desire plus conflict equals fiction equals story, and if there's not a strongly outlined, clear desire, then I'm just kind of like, why am I rooting for this character? Like, why do I care what happens to you? And I've asked that question of Deadpool and Harley Quinn and the Guardians of the Galaxy, yes, and I'm just like, I don't quite get it. Again, some things are not my thing. I'm not trying to judge anyone's preferences here, but I've found those movies entertaining, even though they're not my favorite thing. Like, I still have watched and enjoyed them, but I'm just like, it's not my top kind of character. Like, give me Batman or even the Punisher over that. I guess I like that kind of ambiguity, but the kind of like just the character floating through life, not doing anything, not aiming for anything. Really, it's not my thing. So I'll just give you some quick examples from my story too. Fractured Heroes that I'm writing, the story I'm working on. Some of you have heard bits and pieces of this, and I think I have an example of both kinds of anti-heroes right here in the middle of the cover of this whole version. This guy is named Night Terror. As you might imagine, he's the dark, brutal vigilante of the group. You could call him a cross between Batman and the Punisher, maybe, or something like that. Obviously, or definitely, I think he was inspired by characters like that. And this guy on the end, he's called Frostburn. He's my, I guess, anti-hero of motive. He's the hotshot, cocky, kind of just goes to life on his own. At the beginning of the story, he's not trying to be heroic. He's like, I tried the superhero thing, and it didn't work out for me, and I'm now just in it for, money and girls and beer. He does get better. I mean, spoiler alert, but I'd say like Han Solo, he gets roped into being a hero reluctantly at first, and then later becomes more heroic. So I am planning to give him some character development, because again, the anti-heroes are just kind of a drifter. That's not really my thing, personally. So if I have a character like that, I do show I'm getting some growth later on. But at first, Frostburn is like that. So anyway, yeah. So once again, those two major classifications I have are the anti-hero who has a strong quest, but just maybe goes too far and it maybe is too brutal compared to the other heroes, versus the anti-hero who does not seem to have a strong quest and is just in it for themselves. So let me ask you for your writing application, just something you can apply to your own writing. Do you have anti-heroes in your story? And if so, which of these two types do they most belong to? I realize that there's probably more nuance than that, and you can probably make more than those two types. This is just a quick video. If we had more time, we could delineate those more, but which of those two categories do your anti-heroes fall into more? And if it's the second one, make sure they have a clear, compelling desire. Hopefully your characters do. And again, there can be other compelling desires besides just being a superhero or fighting crime or whatever, but make sure your anti-heroes have a clear mission, have a clear desire. Again, desire plus conflict equals story. My complaint with some of these characters is that they haven't had a strong desire. So wherever your character falls in the hero, anti-hero spectrum, make sure they still have a strong desire that's clear to the reader, in order to get them through the story, because that will help things a lot and will make your story a lot more interesting and compelling to the reader. That's my writing tip for today. Hope that was helpful to you, and hope you keep thinking about these things as you read, watch fiction, whatever. Keep thinking through your the tropes and how they affect your story. Keep up the good work on your writing, and I will see you next time. Thanks.